fantastic to use it on the thyroid. I like using it on lymph nodes. A third of all of your body's lymph nodes are in your head and your neck. So this area, getting good drainage within this area is vitally important. So it's my favorite thing. I don't leave the house.
I am so excited to have you on the Quantum Lens podcast. You are such a person of light in this quantum field, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Kelly is the founder of SoleilWell, and I am so excited to have you on today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to have this conversation with you because I love what you're doing. I love the whole premise of your podcast. I think we need a whole lot more of this positivity and open that conversation as opposed to there's so much fear-based everything that like this is just a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you for that. And also, I just have to say, my relationship with you and including some other women in the quantum space has been unbelievable. This industry, we are so heart-centered and we've become pretty fast friends, even though we've never really met. We're about to meet next month, which I'm really excited about. At Meatstock, and maybe you could talk about some of the events you'll be at this year as well in the podcast. But I just have to say, thank you for all your love and support, that you've been just so loving and supportive of everything that I've been doing and in this space, and so supportive and so loving. So I just appreciate you.
Thank you. And I mean, likewise, this is just such a wonderful community, mostly women based, which I love. We've created this tribe, but, some pretty fierce women that we're tired of this. We're tired. And this isn't some sort of feminist movement. This is simply, we are tired of living in this fear-based world. And, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And so, we need to be the game changers and start sort of changing the trajectory. And we do that, as mothers, we do that with our families. That starts at home. And then it, resonates out. It's the ripple effect. And I love that. I love that there's this collective understanding and this collective sharing and collective wealth of information. And we're all just so supportive. And here we are.
I love that. And as women, we are the nurturing creators. Like we were meant to create. We as women get this beautiful miracle blessing of bringing something out of the spiritual world into the physical world, becoming mothers, which I think is the biggest miracle that could ever happen on earth. I just think it's just such a magical. I have 2 kids. I know you have children as well. And I think we innately also have this need as these spiritual beings to create. And what you've created, your company is just been so amazing. I'd love for you to share your history. How did you get into the quantum space and how has that evolved? And maybe we could talk about the birth of this beautiful heart-centered company that you've developed as well.
Sure. I like to say that most people come into this health space either from one or two paths: curiosity or crisis. I hope for most that it's curiosity, but unfortunately the reality is for most it's a crisis, and either it's a crisis that happens with you in your own health or someone that you love. That's what sort of brought me into the world of understanding, of stepping beyond the very generic health space. Sarah Kleiner and I have joked that it started with plastic, right? You start with getting rid of the plastic,
Yes.
and all of a sudden that just you become this contrarian. Not a tinfoil hat, not a conspiracy theorist, simply a contrarian. And okay, well, wait a second. Let me start kind of thinking a little bit more openly about everything. And so that's where it started. And then, of course, it evolves into the whole food story, because that's a really important component of our health, not to be dismissed by any stretch, but certainly, an important component and a great place for a lot of people to start. And then there's the exercise and all of that. And then you you start to understand that, okay, wait a second, this is a much deeper thing. And I'm lucky, by the grace of my God, I've always moved through my life very intuitively. And I never really understood what that was. It was just simply the way that I behaved and moved in my life and in my decisions. Even as a child, I knew that I loved being in the sun, and I knew that I loved being on the beach. I just knew that. And I used to joke when I was a little kid, I used to joke and say, I'm solar powered. And I'd kind of walk around saying I'm solar powered, not really understanding what exactly that meant. It was just, a funny, quirky little thing that I used to say. Spent a ton of time outside. I mean, I'm 55, so I was growing up in the early 70s, and the standard statement in a house was get outside, get outside, get outside. Like, we weren't allowed to stay in the house. So thankfully, I at least had a healthy childhood in that respect, that the environment was certainly much healthier and more conducive to a healthy childhood. But I even, intuitively, we lived up the street from a church, and I would wake up, and there wasn't a lot of talk of religion in my household, but I just intuitively felt that I needed that. And I would walk myself to church every Sunday morning. And becoming a mother, I mean, gosh, it's everything. It is everything. It is the core of my being. I tell my kids that, they are the air that I breathe. And when you have children, that definitely changes your direction and your choices with everything. And so I just intuitively always wanted my kids outside, barefoot, and they were always outside barefoot and naked. I don't know why. And my sister used to come over all the time, and she said, "Why are your kids always naked?" And my answer to that was, they're European, because
Yeah.
my uh, my husband's family is Portuguese, and so my kids would be at my mother-in-law's house, and she would just let them be in the yard swimming in the pool naked all day. And I thought, gosh, like that, I think that's how it's supposed to be. And thankfully, we now know that yes, it is. Like, children should grow up running around the yard naked, barefoot, enjoying life, enjoying childhood. Then my brother suffered a brain injury, and like I said, crisis will make you an expert faster than any college degree, that's for sure. And so there was a very deep dive into what can I do to help him to support his health. I had already been interested in all of the light information and all of the circadian rhythm health information, but then that led me certainly deeper into the very deeply focused red light photobiomodulation information. And so that's what the past decade has been, just this constant seeking of deeper level information. And it's a rabbit hole that we always like to joke, I hope I never find the bottom. I hope that my curiosity will always lead me towards something more, and just peeling back all of these layers. But ultimately, it comes down to that foundation, that light. Light is a very, very important metric that you should, in your health journey, wherever that is, you should take control of your light environment, which will then drive your health.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I grew up in Russia, and we were not allowed inside. Inside was to eat and sleep, and that was it. It was from,
Let's bring that back. I'm all
let's
for
bring
that.
that back. Yeah. I mean, I remember during the time that we lived there, depending on how many kids you had, you might get like a government sponsored apartment. So I remember, because we had 4 or 5 kids, that we finally got an apartment in the city. Before that, we were out on the farm, which I really wish we had just continued living in the farm life now, knowing everything that I know. But it was like one of these things where you woke up, you ate, and your mother literally kicked you out, and you didn't come home unless you had to eat or go to the bathroom, and otherwise you were expected to be outside all day long. And now I look back on that, I'm like, man, I'm so grateful for that. Boy, has the world changed, have the times changed. It was just so safe, Everybody knew who you were. It was a community based, like if someone saw you doing something, they would come over and parent you. It didn't matter if they were your parent or not. I mean, it was just community based living. It's so different than it is nowadays.
Hmm. I'm optimistic that we will make a conscious effort toward more of that. I believe that we are. I do. I believe that we are. I see it happening in some of the younger families that are patients of mine. And so I'm fully optimistic that we're going to get back to where we need to be.
Well, and I feel like now it's becoming cool again too. It's like homesteading and, like the trend is definitely moving back. Um, I, I love that. And I loved your comments about your kids being naked. I'm like, yes, I always feel like we weren't meant to wear clothes. I try to wear as little clothes as possible, especially at my lake house. I'm like, I'm in a bathing suit all day long because I don't have a need for clothes there. Just exposing our bodies
Yeah.
to as much
I,
light
I,
as possible.
I joke. I think that my neighbors must sort of secretly call me Jezebel or something because I'm in a Kaniki bathing suit from March through November. I just we invested money into our health and that was creating an outdoor space that becomes an extension of our living space. So you really don't want to be inside because we made outside really beautiful and very comfortable for a reason. And so I joke and I just say, oh gosh, they don't even ask. They don't ask about the house. They don't ask about the red lights at night. They don't ask about me being in a bathing suit shoveling snow. Oh, I've done that. I've been in the I climb out of the pool in the midwinter and then it's still in my bathing suit. Will have been known to shovel the snow. So, I'm living my best life. I don't care.
Exactly. Rain or shine, we walk every single day, or 3 miles, sometimes 6 miles, depending on the day and how busy we are. And we're always in shorts. And people will literally stop us and say, you realize it's snowing outside. And we're like, yeah, it's deliberate cold exposure. And we kind of just leave it at that unless they continue to ask further questions. But it's funny because people notice. And we got stopped walking in the neighborhood by this older gentleman. And he goes, you guys must be the biggest walkers in the neighborhood. And it's like a third of the people that live in Franklin live in our community. And for someone to stop us and say, you guys walk the most out of anybody else in the community, I'm like, wow, I guess it is possible to live an outdoor lifestyle even when you're living in a city.
Hmm. Oh, it is. It just takes a little bit of effort. And, I like to say conviction and convenience do not live on the same street. So,
Yes.
make your decisions as to what is important. One of the things with you saying that you grew up in Europe, we've spent throughout my kids' lifetimes, we've spent a lot of time in the summers in Portugal and in the Azores. And that way of living, that walking to dinner every night, that, walking to the
Yes.
bakery to get the fresh baked bread and walking and spending the day at the beach. And then, you walk up to the house and you shower and then you walk to dinner. That created such a deep bond with us and our kids. And I just loved that connection, that walking, that we've done that their entire lives. They're 19 and 23. And I can tell you, I walk with my children every day and it is that sacred time that there's no technology, there are no distractions, we're walking, and it's a great opportunity for them because if there's something that they need to talk about, you're not planted in front of them like tell me, it's just you're walking and everything just unfolds organically. And I mean, from a parenting standpoint, I will say that is probably, again, just intuitively, we did it because it felt good and because we had done it in Portugal, but that is one of the single greatest parenting hacks. And it's not even a hack, it's just like this very, very sacred part of our day. And I feel that it keeps us connected in a very, very disconnected world.
So beautiful. It's interesting because a few months ago, my husband said, when you and my oldest daughter, when we walk, she talks my ear off. She talks the entire time. And he goes, man, you guys communicate so well. And I go, well, I think it's just because we're walking next to each other. And he goes, man, I really hope that that continues as they get older. And then this morning we were walking and she and him were walking side by side and she was talking his ear off too. And I was like, ah, see, it was almost like he initiated this need or want to be closer to her and be more connected. And for me to watch him finally get to the same place where they're communicating on the same level, it was really, really beautiful to watch. Like it actually like brings tears to my eyes, like just telling you about that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. What it's about, right? Staying connected to one another, connected to your children, connected to your community, connected to the earth.
Yeah. And I think one other thing that you said, and I just heard this last week, and I don't remember who said it. I think maybe it was on Joe Rogan or something, but somebody said that aging was the pursuit of comfort. And that really stuck with me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with modern living is we are way too comfortable in our climate controlled homes. There's yeah, that's the crisis. That's the modern day crisis is comfort. So, the more comfortable you are, that saying, the more comfortable you are with being uncomfortable, the better off you are. And I always I always purposefully put my kids in those uncomfortable situations. I mean, like I said, growing up in the 70s, trust me, every day we were we were made to be uncomfortable in some respects. But to think that kids today are growing up, these children, they're not even inconvenienced, which is a problem. And so one of the really brilliant things that my kids did was they both reffed soccer. And so you take a 14-year-old kid and you put him in a situation to ref a very highly competitive soccer game where at the age of 14, he is the one in control on that field. And my boys have had to reprimand adult coaches. They've had to reprimand other players. They've had to reprimand parents on the sidelines. And that put my kids in a very uncomfortable situation. And that was probably the greatest, outside of us walking every day, was one of the greatest things that they have done through their childhood because that's very uncomfortable. And most of their friends couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't handle it. And so, I was very proud of my kids for being able to do that. And when I am talking with patients and children, I always will recommend to people, get your kids to do things like that because it builds character. And a lot of that has been lost in this, very convenient way of living that we have.
Yeah, it's interesting because, for instance, we will cold plunge and it's outside and it's hot and we'll get the trough and put ice in it. And my kids will jump right in and no one's asked them to do that. They just watch you and they'll follow suit. And that's building resilience right there. Getting your whole body into cold water is hard.
It is hard. Yeah. Again, like that is very inconvenient, right? And there really isn't much that's super fun and enticing about doing that. But great that they do that. We just recently got a sauna, and my youngest son, he'll go to the gym and then he'll text and say, "Can you make sure the sauna's on?" And so I'm really happy that he'll go in the sauna with a book and stay in there for a while and read, and when it gets too hot he'll step out and cool down for a minute and then go back in. And again, that's those heat shock proteins. I mean, that's a that can be a very uncomfortable place to be after a while. So
Absolutely. I love that workout and then get in the sauna.
yeah,
That's a great
right.
combo. Feel like everybody should do it. And another thing that everybody else should be doing too is red light therapy. And you have built the most amazing company. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about how the idea came around and why you developed this beautiful company.
Thank you. I I never expected to do this. Never did I think I would be an entrepreneur in my mid 50s. I thought, oh, at 55, I'll retire from clinical practice and, enjoy life and travel with my husband on his business trips and things like that. And here I am, busier and working more than I ever did. But it's working out of passion is very different, has a very different feel to it. So it never feels like work. But 5 a.m. calls and 11 p.m. calls are that it's a labor of love. And so I do it. But I'm able to do this because at this point my kids are grown. And now I'm able to take all the energy that I poured into my favorite job, which was being their mother, and now I get to pour it into something else where I get to serve other people and other families. And I just love that. I love being able to provide something to people that I know is going to help them and is going to enrich their life and enrich their health and help their family and help people that they love. That's what made it so important to me, was because I felt like what was available I could not trust. And if I can't trust it, then I certainly can't recommend it to the people that I love. And so I decided to launch this business and to focus on the things that were important to me, which were creating and developing very, very safe, high quality, fully tested, fully vetted red light therapy panels. A lot of people like to throw around the term, medical grade device, and I recently made a post that the sunlight is the only true medical grade,
Yes.
form of sunlight. Like, let's be real. My first conversation with everyone is, you don't need this. Save your money. You don't need red light. Please, I implore you, go outside. I'm not in this for the volume. I don't pay attention to numbers whatsoever. So always when I'm speaking to someone, always my conversation is, you need to be outside. That is your number one light device, is simply stepping outside and harvest the natural sunlight first. This is an adjunct therapy. This is something that, through the way that we're living today, the way that our world is designed, that drives us indoors, that limits our access to being outside. And that's a lot of people. People have to work. They have to go to jobs. And so they don't have the opportunity to spend 6 or 8 hours a day outside in natural sunlight. And so red light is the adjunct to that. It's like, okay, since you can't make those modifications in your lifestyle, which is fully understandable, let's see what we can do as far as an add-on, which would be red light therapy, and then also the subtraction of blue light at night. So it's not even so much just, let's just pummel you with red light, right? Like, get all the red light devices and just use them all the time. That is never the message of my company. My company is always, get your natural sunlight and supplement with a red light device when you need to. And the unfortunate truth is that a lot of people in our society are very sick. And so that's where light can come in as a terrific therapy to add in, because there are no contraindications. It's very, very safe and highly, highly effective for all of us, regardless of whatever the medical condition. Light is going to be very beneficial for you. And so it makes me feel good when I'm able to talk with people and get them to a healthier place by creating and designing a healthier device for them. Essentially, I treat every single product, whether it's a panel or a pad or a torch, as if I'm the one that's using it. And so I fully vet everything and I test everything. And people have said to me, other people, I've been approached by multiple people saying, I, would like to partner with you in your business. And, but I don't think that will ever happen, because I have to have control over how these things are produced and tested. And so, is the scalability of that there? Like I said, I don't concern myself with numbers. I concern myself with what is going from me to you. And I treat every customer as if they're my own patient. And so I'm taking ownership of what it is that I'm shipping to someone. And I'm a stickler for testing everything. I just don't think that it is a good idea to order something as important as a light device to order that and have that drop shipped when there hasn't been someone in between looking out for you, the consumer. And that's the unfortunate way the entire industry functions today. And it, that's not my concern. I can only be concerned with what I'm doing and the focus and the energy and the positivity that I put into the things that I'm doing. So,
And I have to say, the integrity of your company is so strong because I remember I think I was placing a bulk order for my customers from you, and you had gotten the product in and you tested it and you called me and you said, I'm sending all of this back. It is not the right LEDs because you hand test every unit. And I was like, wow, Kelly, like I will forever praise your company because the integrity in which you operate. You could have made a big sale that day, but instead you were like, this isn't the right product and I'm shipping it all back and we'll get it back again in however many weeks. And it was no big deal, but I was sold from that point on that I knew that every product you deliver was going to be safe and it was going to be exactly what you said that it was.
yeah. Yeah, and that, I mean, I still have PTSD from that situation because that was, I mean, like you would not believe the number of things that were delivered that were not right, and the number of orders that needed to be fulfilled. And that was a very, very stressful time. But at the end of the day, not one not one person, like looking at them, they looked fine, they looked exactly as they should. They, to turn them on, no, you wouldn't know that the wavelengths weren't right. There were just so many things, and the manufacturer just kept saying, no, they're fine, no, they're fine, and I kept saying, they are not fine, I can't use these. No, they're fine. No, they're fine. They're fine. And that's the unfortunate thing that happens in the industry. It's just because something might look fine doesn't mean that it is fine. And there has to be a level of vetting. You can't offload that responsibility onto the Chinese manufacturers because their goal is to get it out the door as cheaply and as quickly as possible. And so every company is paying an engineer at the factory to oversee the quality control. And I happen to know enough about Chinese manufacturing through my husband, who has dealt with that
Mhm.
for almost 35 years, to know you can't do that. No, not something that you can trust. That has to be absolutely verified here, which is what I do. And so it limits, like sometimes I'll have things like the big mats that I make. I'm very specific about those because those are being used in direct contact with the body. And so those have to be very, very safe. My specifications, my safety specifications on those are just exponentially higher because it is in direct contact. And so I typically will only manufacture a very small amount of those at a time because number one, they're very expensive to make, but number two, if there are any manufacturing issues, I can control it in a much smaller quantity. So I learned a lot through that through that situation, and was like, okay, wait a second, let me do things in a much more manageable way. But again, my manufacturers are very, very good. We do now have a level of trust between us because they have had to refund my money and they have had to remake my orders enough times to know, let's just not do that. Let's just all work within the guidelines of what is required.
You're not backing down. You're going to send them back no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, no, there have been some fierce situations, but at the end of the day, it all works out and everyone received a safe product, which was exactly what I said it was. And so I love that I'm coming at this with a practitioner mindset. I am not a CEO. I am not a business person or a marketer. I am not interested in numbers. I'm interested in doing something good, and in helping people. And so that's always the focus. And I just let that guide me no matter what. If that means having to have things remade and delaying shipment, so be it. But I just, like I said, I treat every product as if it's I'm the one using it, or you're my patient, or you're my family member and you're the one that's using it. So it tends to feel different.
Yeah, and I love this post that you did the other day. You said all red light panels are made in China. It's just which ones of them are actually getting tested. And I was like, yes, that is what sets you apart.
Well, again, because companies can say, and they do it, and maybe they don't fully understand manufacturing the way, with my husband's expertise in this, and that was a big reason why I actually did this, was because he had that that level of knowledge that a lot of people don't. You can't pay a Chinese manufacturer to have a Chinese engineer that is going to okay your product. That has to fall on you. And so it does. It falls on me. And so everything comes to me. Nothing gets shipped to someone direct from the manufacturer. Everything comes through me, through my office. Everything is tested. It's what needs to be done until we can move manufacturing here. And that has always been the goal since day one. Jackie Jolie and I talk about this all the time. I'm currently connecting with some people to hopefully make this happen. But, for now, the reality is they're made in China. 99% of them are made in China. Someone actually came at me when I posted that, was like, you can't say that. And they sent me this list of companies that make like these little tiny things. And I was like, well, no, no, no. When we're comparing, if you're going to go panel to panel, like let's compare apples to apples here. And I'm telling
Yes.
you, they're all made in China. I mean, you can't compare that to a small little red light device that is made here. And God bless. Like I fully support any company that is manufacturing anything here in the U.S. But also, again, manufacturing here also requires a level of integrity that
Yes.
is void. It's very void. Certainly, it's in our culture within business practices. You've been in the corporate world. We have a deficit of integrity globally.
And I actually, in my old life, which I mean, this was so long ago that I barely remember it. I mean, I did operations management for our manufacturing facility in China. So you and I have had some laughs over the things that we've dealt with in the past. So, yes, it really takes a lot of love and support and patience and to create a good product with good integrity. So I just love that about you and the company that you've built. What are some of your favorite, like, do you have any kind of anecdotal stories of like success or really amazing things that you've seen patients overcome?
Oh gosh, yes. One of my coworkers, I mean, I love red light for all brain conditions. Certainly systemic conditions, yes, but the brain responds so beautifully to near infrared light. And in this today's society where we are plagued with a mental health crisis, and it's specifically, hitting our young people very, very hard. So my coworker's daughter had a, it was really, it was really bad. I mean, there was a very deep level of depression and suicidal ideology happening. And I just said to her, we have to pump her full of light. And mind you, this was April. This is when we have all tanked, like everyone's vitamin D stores, all of that stored sunlight that you may have captured in the summer, that tank is just pretty much run dry, which is what precipitates a lot of the mental health issues that we see in March and April. And it was right at that time. And I said to her, we have to pump her full of light. And that's what we did, is we just bathed this kid in morning sunlight, took away technology, added in very strong red light therapy, and we were able to really rescue her, honestly rescue her from the clutches of what that looks like, and I've been able to do that for a number of young people, and that's amazing because you can save young people from a lifetime of suffering. when you start to change their light environment and their relationship with light, and you make sunlight the priority, and then you add in therapeutic red light, and then you subtract out the blue light. It's never going to be just one of those things. It's you need to kind of make this combination of things that will ultimately save people. I like to say light will save us, and I believe that it definitely is that top tier of therapies that are needed. I had a woman contact me, and she's been using my panels for lupus, and she said, and she's using them far more than what a generalized recommendation would be. And she said, I feel like a very different person. And I've heard that from multiple people that have some pretty chronic, pretty severe conditions where the limitations of allopathic medicine are there. Therapies maybe don't work or have too many side effects and things. And that's where you can sort of move someone toward using red light. And once they start adding that in and they feel the difference and they realize that it doesn't have any side effects, there's only an upside, right? There's only an upside to doing it. So, that's really exciting. And just, yeah, I use red light for everything. Everything. It doesn't matter if it's a minor headache, if it's some sinus congestion, lymphatic drainage, toothache. Definitely for teeth, it's the go-to tool for that. Certainly, muscle soreness, recovery, sleep, energy. It's direct energy. When I explain to people, when they say, like, what exactly is it? Like, what is it doing? It's energy. You're able to put direct energy into a system that is losing energy. And it doesn't require, everyone kind of thinks that they need to take in food, and that is our means of energy. And we know that. We know that it isn't. It's part of it. It's definitely a part of it, but it's not it. It's not the thing. And so, when I explain to people, you're able to put energy into your system in the way that nature designed it. It's designed to absorb those photons, and it's designed to expand that exclusion zone and build that battery and create that energy. And the fact that it can do it with 100% efficiency just shows you this is a divine design. I love, when people say to me, well, why is it red light and near infrared and not blue light or green light or something like that? And it's, when you look at the spectrum of sunlight, and then when you start to understand near infrared light, and through the work of Scott Zimmerman, and you understand that nature created nearly 50% of sunlight to be in the red spectrum. And then it also created so that all of the vegetation, the grass, the trees, the leaves, everything around you absorbs the visible spectrum and then reflects that near infrared because it wants you to have all of it. Imagine if there was a nutrient that was built into every single thing on the planet. Wouldn't you think, wow, apparently that nutrient is really, really important because it's built into absolutely everything. Well, that's near infrared. It's like it's present every minute that the sun is in the sky, and then everything around you reflects more of it onto you. I don't need to know any more than that to understand that, gosh, this is vitally important to human biology to be getting enough near infrared. And that's the deficiency that we see. It's a photonic deficiency. And it's funny because when I was invited into the group of the photobiomodulation researchers, which is just such an interesting space to be in, and I'm so blessed to have been invited and to know these people. But again, like their approach and the way that they look at everything is very much in absolutes, and they look at like singular wavelengths and not the blend of wavelengths. But in talking with them, when I've used that term of photon deficiency, they all love it, and they all get excited, and they're like, yes, that's exactly what it is. But, researchers can be very siloed, and so they kind of don't think of it in that way that we think of it, in this overall health and wellness space. we think of it as more of a nutrient, and lack of it creates this deficiency. So it's kind of fun to be able to to bridge the gap between the world that we move in, and sort of understanding this quantum relationship to nature, and then the world that these researchers move in, which is very siloed, but starting to start those conversations, those cross communications with them, and then introducing them into Gerald Pollack's work and understanding the water. So it's a fun time.
And one of my favorite tools that I have that I use for almost every single patient I have is your torch.
Yes,
And this
this thing.
device, I mean,
Oh
not
my
only
word.
you can just travel with it, it's so easy, it's
Hmm.
so small, and we use it for
Yep.
everything. I'm telling you, my daughter had an earache overnight. It was gone. I mean, teeth aches gone, scars, you know, heal quickly. Like it's this device is insane, and all the little attachments you have for doing it up your nose and in your ear. And talk to me about that, because this is just such a cool tool that I feel like everybody should have on hand.
Yeah. I love that. I love to speak to families about this. And it's like, you need this. You need this in your house, because we need to start teaching children to go to something like light as a means for whatever it is, a scrape or a cut or a belly ache or an earache. Let's start moving toward a more natural remedy that actually works, as opposed to the medicine cabinet and Tylenol and things like that. That's where the torch was born. Was I wanted something that could be used directly on the body, and then it kind of, everything just kind of built upon that, and it was like, oh, this is perfect. Like I can just put this. I can put it anywhere. If your wrist is bothered, even here actually, to irradiate the blood is also a great place to use it. But you can put it anywhere, and then it was like, oh well, all my dental patients, I wanted them to be able to reach intraorally with light. So then came the tip, and so then that could go intraorally. I also understood through all of the research that I'd done on my brother's brain injury that intranasal red light is rather important. Those devices can be very cost prohibitive. They're $2,000 to $3,000 for those devices. Well, why not use this, right? I mean, this works. It gets the light right up there, right where you need it, intranasally into the big arterial plexus that sits in the nose, so you can actually irradiate the blood by using it intranasally. And so I did that. And then I was like, well, everyone was asking me to make a mask, and I wouldn't make a mask, and I won't make a mask. I don't find the masks to be anything worth anything. And so I was like, I'm not doing a mask, but I understood, well, people want something that they can use on their face. And so I created the little glass the little glass dome to go on the top. And it's like, well, here's my beauty tool, like safe, effective, easy to use. I just love this. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't use it. They're on every nightstand in this house. My kids will always go toward light if they get a little sinus inflammation from the pollen. If they get a little a cut or a pimple, I mean, they're using it on pimples and things like that. I like using it on the thyroid. I think it's really fantastic to use it on the thyroid. I like using it on lymph nodes. A third of all of your body's lymph nodes are in your head and your neck, so this area, getting good drainage within this area, is vitally important. So it's my favorite thing. I don't leave the house without it, and now I have this entire sort of cult following of torch users. And did you see the clear tip? I'll show you.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I started thinking a little. My mind is always going in everything that I do, and it's like I'll be doing something, and I always say, see a need, fill a need, right? And then I started thinking, like, I needed a clear tip that could deliver light like the full length of the torch. So instead of just, when you use the blacked out torch, you're getting all that light out the
Right.
tip, which is a very focused area. I wanted something that could deliver light the whole length of that tip. And so
Cool.
Yeah, so for very like generalized oral conditions, so if someone has advancing periodontitis, that's very generalized. There are always going to be, localized issues, and that's where this comes in. But when you're talking about like a generalized gingivitis or periodontitis or a sort of generalized disturbance of the oral microbiome, I think this is just the easier tool because you can just put the whole thing
Hmm.
in your mouth and you're basically treating your entire mouth with red light. So that
Very
was
cool.
that was a big part of I was like, let me see if I can get them to make me some clear tips and they did and here we are.
Do you want to share anything that you might have coming out soon or that you're working on?
Da, da, da. I love this thing. I love this thing. Yeah, that is the latest and greatest. That is the fun new toy that is coming. I don't have official dates, so everything is just kind of quiet and nothing's been announced just yet. It's a little beauty panel, and it's a much lower dose of red light because for the skin, you do want to kind of dial things back. You don't need to blast everything with the high power, but it's portable, folds up just like into the size of an iPad, slips into your bag. It weighs less than 3 pounds. So you just tuck it in your purse and you go and you can travel anywhere and have red light whenever and wherever you want. And I've been testing it out for quite a while, and I've had a number of people using it, and everyone really seems to be enjoying it. So I'm pretty happy to do that. That to me, like that is the ultimate like beauty tool. I do love the torch too, but it's like that is very kind of beauty specific. And another part of wanting to do that also was I work with a lot of mothers who want their kids to be doing red light therapy for their college age kids, if they're high school age or middle school age kids. It is very hard to get your children to stand in front of a panel. And,
Yes.
they feel weird and they don't really want to do it. And it's like, well, if you can sort of disguise it as a beauty, well, it's not disguised. I mean, it's a beauty
It
tool,
is.
right?
Yeah.
And so if you can sort of package it in a way that appeals to them, you're going to get compliance. And I thought how perfect that we can take, a lot of these young girls that are photon deficient and, create something like this where they will very willingly do it. Because if you attach the word beauty to anything, they want at it. And so I thought how perfect is, health is the target, but beauty is the byproduct. And so we can just sort of say, oh, look, I got you this little beauty panel. And then we can start getting a lot of these young kids very willingly and compliantly doing a regular red light therapy, which is going to be very beneficial for their mental and their physical health. So that's the part of it that I
Love it.
love. It's like okay, let's do something that is going to be very appealing to young people, um, and but also just profoundly beneficial. It's red light therapy, but to them, they don't want to think of it as a therapy. They want to think of it as sitting in front of a beauty panel.
I love it. I love it. I love the quote that you just said. Health is the target, but beauty is the byproduct. That is
Yeah, and
amazing.
and
I
and
love
that is everything that we do, right? So all of this health creates that inner beauty, creates that spiritual beauty, creates that everything that you exude. It all comes from that underlying health.
Yes. I love it. So you are traveling a little bit this year. So we're going to Meet Stock, which is in May in Tennessee. You're going to be at the Return to Nature retreat that Carrie and I are putting on in June. Do you have any other events that you're attending or where people could find you?
I mean, I am so excited about those two events. It kind of makes me laugh that they're both in Tennessee. But hey, I mean, what a great place to have to be twice this year. So I am so excited about that. I think the energy behind both of those events is just going to be off the charts. When you can get a lot of like-minded people and a lot of discussion happening, and just, again, just a lot of positivity in the health space. And I love that the carnivore keto space is now very interested in like a lot of
Quantum.
this, quantum and circadian health stuff. So ultimately that's the goal. It's to get us all healthy by way of light, by way of food, by way of positivity, all of it. So, I love that group is very open to inviting in other tribes, right? Like let's all just create one big tribe. And so I think that event is going to be really fun. But then, I mean, the Return to Nature event is just, I mean, I'm excited about it. It's like a wedding. It's like the event, like the event of the year. I'm just so excited about it, and so excited to be part of it. So excited to be asked to be there, and just looking forward to meeting everyone in person, because I just think that, if someone were to sort of look at that from above, and I think the aura of that space is just going to be
It's going
unbelievable.
to be insane. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell people where they can find you, your products, any social media stuff. How can people find you?
Yeah, so the website is SoleilWell. Soleil meaning that's the French word for sun. It's SoleilWell. SoleilWell.com is the company. And SoleilWell.com. SoleilWell is on Instagram, as well as me as the Quantum Mom on Instagram. And yeah, you can find me at Meatstock, and you can find me at the Return to Nature.
Kelly, thank you so much for such a beautiful conversation and always just a wealth of knowledge and information. And I always end the podcast with one final question, and that is, what does love mean to you?
Love is light. We see that zinc spark when an when a baby is conceived and it comes into creation. There's that spark of light, right? It's light, like let there be light. Light is everything. I want to be the light. I want to make the light. I want to share the light. I want to talk about light. Love is light, and I
I
think that
love that.
we need to share a whole lot more.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks again for all your time, and thanks for being on the Quantum Lens podcast today.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yes. All right. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quantum Lens podcast. I hope this episode brought you insight, inspiration, and a deeper connection to your journey. If you've loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Let's keep this conversation going. And until next time, keep aligning, expanding, and embrace the magic of who you are.